Hello, hello, hello. This is Gresh from the I Am CEO podcast, and I have a very special guest on the show today. I have Darrien Watson. Darrien, excited to have you on the show. Yes, absolutely. And you're doing so many awesome things. So before I jumped in, I wanted to read a little bit more about Darrien so you could hear about some of those awesome things. And Darrien, travel tech innovator and the dynamic CEO of Squadtrip, has a dedicated mission to foster community and meaningful connections through travel experiences. With a remarkable record, Darrien has successfully secured 1.5 million in funding, generated over $7 million in travel sales, and expertly facilitated 6,000 trips. And in 2022, he founded Squadtrip, an automated booking platform designed to empower travel organizers by providing a robust site of professional tools, enabling them to expand and flourish within their businesses. His achievements speak volumes in the travel, technology, and e-commerce space, and I congratulated him a little bit earlier on his recent marriage, and super excited that he's been able to kind of celebrate and achieve that. But he's a serial entrepreneur, I'm going to call him, and I think he has a really cool story I was listening to on how and why he started Squadtrip, which I'm sure we're going to dive into. But one of the things that he said that really stuck with me in one of the interviews is said, you have to be clear and steadfast with the vision, but flexible with the details. And I think so many times when we have dreams and aspirations, we get stuck on the how instead of the why. And I love that you're really stuck on that. So Darrien, excited to have you on the show. Are you ready to speak to the I'm CEO community?
Absolutely, Gresh.
Let's get it started then. So to kind of kick everything off, I know I touched on it a little bit. I wanted to rewind the clock, hear a little bit more on how you got started, what I call your CEO story.
Sure. How I got started goes back to quite some years ago. Graduating from college, was back in Brooklyn, New York, where I'm from, feeling disconnected from all my friends and a little bit burnt out. And so, first thing that came to mind is it would be great if I went on a group trip with friends. I went to like booking.com, tried to basically see if I could plan and execute something for 12 friends of mine. Wasn't able to do so. So I basically had to put on my travel agent hat and do the planning, the organizing. I was tasked with collecting the money, communicating with all my friends and all the vendors. And it was a great time, but we had a headache. So it started off with 12 people the first year, and the second year ballooned to an annual group trip, and now we had 50 people. So as you can imagine, what it's like collecting money through Cash App, PayPal, Venmo, tracking who's paid what and who owes what. It was just a headache. So now just think for a second, imagine what that's like for a travel agent who's not doing it for 12 people, it's 80 people. It's not one time a year, it's hundreds of trips for clients. So what I did was ultimately building a solution for myself. That's really how Squattrip came about. We're now selling to travel professionals, travel brands. There's even lifestyle brands on the platform, wellness tour operators, and even some destination weddings and family reunions on the platform today.
Nice. I absolutely love that. And, just thinking through all of this, I can't even imagine. I'm not really a big trip planner. I'm not that person, that guy. I love that you created a solution that, of course, helped out you and the people that were going on the trip, but also help out so many people that are having to kind of navigate and juggle all those different needs, wants, desires, money, all those things, to make it a lot easier to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So I wanted to drill down a little bit more, hear a little bit more about, everything that you all built. Could you take us through exactly like how it works, how you're making that impact and serving the clients you work with?
Sure. Now, if you put yourself in the shoes of a travel organizer, you know where you're going, you've got your group, but first step is getting the information out on paper, right? You could go to Canva, you could build a WordPress website. Squadship makes it easy for you to just fill in the fields and the inputs. And in a couple minutes, you'll generate a beautiful trip landing page that has all the information, all the details, frequently asked questions at everybody's fingertips. So you can just share that with the group, whether it's in a group chat, posting on your Facebook group or page, or sending an email blast to all your customers. And once they're ready to like actually go through that booking process, you're likely going to have multiple trip options, whether it's like the basic package or the premium or the 4 day versus the 5 day. Everyone's going to want to choose something different. So we effectively give you those tools to build out those trip packages so that you can manage your inventory, ask any registration questions that are associated with that, and allow them to seamlessly check out using their credit card, debit, or even Apple Pay.
Nice. I love that. And I've been on trips and I imagine you probably have had the exact same experience as well too, where you have like, I want to do this, I have this list of things that are my priorities or what I want to do on the trip. I want to go on this excursion, that excursion, things like that. And I just can't even imagine the person that has to coordinate all that. But it sounds like you in this platform makes it so much easier so that you don't have to be the person that's, I guess, carrying all that weight. You kind of work in partnership, for lack of a better term, with the platform that you've all been able to build.
Absolutely, yeah. And so ultimately, it turns a one person show into an organization. They don't have to hire other people to help facilitate the execution of the travel experience. They're ultimately really just hiring Squadtrip as a software platform to do it for them.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the beautiful parts of technology. I think so many times we can think either or, but it's actually both. And how you can, have that really great experience and still be able to lean on and hire like a partner in Squad Trip and be able to kind of make that happen. And I don't know if you have found this. Do you find like I feel like of course part of the experience is going and traveling, being wherever you're at, if whether it's a wedding or your family reunion, all those things that you mentioned that could be happening, but I feel like part of the experience starts even before you get there. And I think that there's not enough kind of information or awareness of that. If you have, if you don't get the payment from the person, that ends up being a bad experience that, that goes into the trip. But do you feel like that alleviates a lot of that? So to make sure that the experience is as seamless as possible?
I couldn't agree more. Ultimately, that trip experience starts when you book your trip, right? And you're thinking about where you're going, what are you going to be wearing, taking time off. And for the trip organizer, it's best that they keep you engaged with information, pictures, what you should be wearing, maybe if you have to get any sort of shots or visas beforehand. So there's so many things to think about from the trip organizer's perspective. And then if they're doing it for public consumption and they're selling out a trip experience that's open to the public, now they need to kick off their marketing efforts. And if they've got to worry about who's paid, who's up to date, sending out invoices and receipts and reminders, then they won't be able to focus on basically making that experience the best one for when people do arrive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where, really technology truly shines, where it allows you to kind of be in your zone of genius. You get to do the things that you do the best and you don't have to worry about those other things that may not be, the things that you get most excited about. So thinking about those, like you said, those travel planners, those people that have all the people, or especially if they're not even travel planners and trying to like develop that skill. I can't imagine what that looks like. But I love that this is definitely like an easy button to make that happen. Do you feel like being able to kind of understand both of those parts, the people that are traveling, the people that are organizing the travel, do you feel like being able to kind of create that solution and simplify that, be that matchmaker for lack of a better term, do you feel like that's part of your secret sauce of the organization, secret sauce, and what sets you apart and makes you unique?
I think that's a part of it, but I think the real secret sauce is ultimately just making it really easy for anybody to get started. Now, as I mentioned before, we've got a lot of professionals on the platform, those who are, making a six-figure income off of planning and executing travel experiences for groups. But then you've got the leisure travelers that just want to bring friends together. That's where we started, right? So um, I think that's ultimately the secret sauce. It's not that hard. The way the platform is built out, it's easy to use. And there's a step-by-step trip builder. So if you haven't thought about some of these steps, based on how you interact with the platform, we're going to help you. And our team, beyond the software, is there and able and willing to help you out because a lot of the planners on our platform, they're what I call travelpreneurs. They're
Mhm.
new to this space. They're trying to launch and grow a travel business. And this first trip that they're planning for their MBA program members or for their church is their foray into uh, travel entrepreneurship. and we want to hold their hand, whether it's talking to our team or in how you engage with the product. And so ultimately, I think that's really the secret sauce. The rest of them are built for established businesses. They even have checks and approvals that make it harder to even get started. And we remove all that.
Yeah, I love that simplicity, and again, at the end of the day, being able to provide a solution as quickly and easily as possible for everybody that's involved is a true show, an example of like being, I think, really tapped in and being able to execute on that vision. And I love that travelpreneurs part. And I was thinking like people that might have, conferences, or there might be coaches and they have like getaway, all those things are people that may not have that kind of travel experience or like what all the things entail, but they want to do something to serve their clients. But again, it allows them to be present so that they can do the things that they ultimately want to do at their summit or their retreat or whatever that is, and then have all those other things taken care of.
That's it.
Nice. Do you find like when you were building it out, I was listening to one of your interviews, like how did it take time for you to get to the point where you're at now where it's just so simple, was it something that just kind of happened overnight for you to get to where you are and being able to kind of execute on creating this simple solution?
I think what helped from the beginning was that we were building for ourselves. And so, in building for yourself is you're solving your own problem, and then you have that intimate knowledge of what it takes to solve that problem. And so, I won't say it happened overnight because we couldn't snap our fingers and get all of the features that we wanted in the beginning, but we could work towards it. And ultimately, we found a community of travel curators who wanted to take that ride with us. And so we had this like basically group of beta customers, beta testers who were heavily involved, wanted to see the success of the business because it was in line with their own success. And uh, I wish I could say that there's just like this silver bullet, but ultimately it was just the iteration over time and just being in the problem. I'll even say this, like I know you mentioned I got married about 4.5 weeks ago, and no surprise, it was a destination wedding. It was
Yeah.
100 people that traveled with us, friends and family members, and we actually used our product to get the information out, to communicate with the guests and the vendors, have a landing page that had all the information, and then collect money from 100 different guests and allow them to set up uh, auto charge payment plans so they could just enroll and get charged automatically. And really, they just had to show up. And even that experience just, again, puts me in the shoes of an organizer, my customer, the person I'm trying to solve. And then it's just really easy to have that level of empathy.
Yeah, empathy, and then marrying that with that execution and being able to kind of make that come to fruition is so huge. But it almost sounds like it's like a north star or a good filter as well too. Because I imagine like whenever you're thinking about iterating and adding, different features, being able to kind of again have that empathy, step into those shoes, have that experience, you are building it for yourself, as you said so well. So it allows it to be a lot easier to decide yay or nay to certain decisions, I imagine.
Exactly.
Nice. Absolutely love that. So I wanted to switch gears a little bit and I wanted to ask you for what I call a CEO hack. So this could be like an app, a book, or even a habit that you have, but what's something that makes you more effective and efficient?
I wish I could tell you there was a CEO hack, a book, an app, a habit, waking up at 4 in the morning or doing cold showers or reading Think and Grow Rich or Headspace using that app or something like that. But I think the truth is that the real hack is ultimately loving what you do and being tied to the mission. And for me, it's connecting people through travel experiences and seeing travelpreneurs flourish, and that keeps me busy and that keeps me going. So there's going to be days where I'm sick, I'm tired, But if you're doing what you love, it just makes it that much easier to continue to persevere, to continue to push through.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much in talking about that perseverance and a lot of the resilience that a lot of times you need to kind of get through. But I think tied to the mission really stuck with me because I think sometimes when you hear the people that are really passionate about it, and I hear it in you and all the things you've been able to do, it's not creating like a win lose. It's creating a win 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 win, and you're tied to that mission to make sure that happens for so many people that are involved that you start to think, I think creatively, you start to be able to see how can I make this a lot more frictionless. You start to do all those things because it's so embedded in who you are and what you're doing. And I think that's what a lot of times you need for the great times, but also the times that aren't so great as well too, and everything in between.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, what would you consider to be what I would call a CEO nugget? A little bit more word of wisdom or piece of advice. I like to say it might be something you would tell your favorite client if you were to hop into a time machine, one of those travelpreneurs, or you might tell your younger business self.
I think it's more of a question that I would ask. And when I sit down with mentees, they always have a grand vision. Oftentimes, they're starting with a solution that they believe that the world needs. And my question to them is usually, do you want to succeed or do you want to be right?
Mm,
And here's what I mean by that. We have these preconceived notions, a hypothesis, an assumption. Sometimes you step out into the market and it's a grand slam. But for the most of us, even the biggest founders and CEOs that we know, it wasn't the first idea, it wasn't the first product. They had to iterate over time. And so, what's embedded in that question is the fact that you can't be tied to the solution. You can't be tied to doing it a certain way because you might be wrong. Of course, I think the sooner we iterate, the sooner we get it out in the market, we test. Does the market want what I'm selling them? Even if you want it to exist, the market dynamics have to be in place. It has to be the right time, the right people, the right positioning, the right value proposition. There's so many things that have to be right. And if you can reflect and look at the data uh, and ask yourself what the data is telling you and just be honest, sometimes it just might mean that like whatever you've birthed, the initial version of it isn't what the market wants. And so as long as we're listening to that, the truth, and putting our ego aside, then as long as we love what we're doing, we can continue to do it even when it's raining, even when you're sick, even when you get 100 no's, you'll eventually get it right. And it's just about staying in the game long enough to do so.
yeah, I love that nugget, and I appreciate you, sharing that, so much. And I think I was listening to one of the interviews that you did as well too, and that's what made me, really think about, being more attached to the why rather than the how. And you had that experience because I think we were talking before we hopped on about being in DC and how a lot of times you being in Techstars, being able to get the fun, all those things happen because you were more attached to and tied to that mission that you talked about. Is that a little what happened for you as well too?
Absolutely. The initial version, this goes back to 2017, 2018. The business model in the initial version wasn't going to be able to raise money. And for us to affect change, to help as many people as possible, we were going to need to raise money. And so the name had to go, the positioning had to go, the offering had to change a bit, and I also had to be willing to move to Tulsa, Oklahoma for that opportunity. And I think that's what guided me, and it's got us here today.
Yeah, that's huge. I think so many times there's not enough kind of awareness around that. A lot of the, I think I love that you said that word ego, because even like I feel like, we want to have the solution, we want to create the solution, but like you said so well, not being so attached to that solution that we have, but paying attention to the market, paying attention to what can, create better opportunities. Because at the end of the day, by I think following through with everything you've been able to do, you get to impact so many more people, so many more travelpreneurs, travelers, people that are having whatever it is that happens because you made those selfless sacrifices for the greater good of the mission. And I think that that speaks volume that a lot of times we don't get enough or talk enough about, at least.
Yeah, I'm glad to be talking about it with you today.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'm curious, like around the getting the funding as well too. Like, was a lot of that those steps that you took, was that opening up the door and like advice you would give to people that might be looking for funding, especially the Black and Brown community that it's not as prevalent as it may be in other communities.
Yeah, I believe Black founders receive less than 1% of funding from that's doled out from venture capitalists and VC firms each year, and that's way below, I guess, the percentage of Black and Brown founders. That doesn't mean that we don't have the ideas. In part, we don't have the relationships, the resources, the ability to execute on. I mean, sometimes the ability to execute is there, so I'll take that back. But it's the ability to go out and fundraise. And so for me, I think a bridge to that was an accelerator program. Now, there are tons of accelerator programs at this stage. You've got the big ones like Techstars, but there's up and coming ones like Black Ambition Prize as well. And these accelerator programs not only do they come with access to capital, they also come with mentorship, information, relationships. And many founders who look like me may not have those resources in their Rolodex or in their home and in their family and community. So this is one way to sort of hack the system to get the access to the information that you need. What it does mean is in many cases, the capital is dilutive. So you probably be giving away a percentage of your company. But the way I see it is going back to, do I want to win or do I want to be right here? I know this will grow into a humongous business for us, and we'll be able to help thousands upon thousands of travelpreneurs and travelers, connecting them through travel experiences. Uh, but along the way, it required us to basically give a piece of our business in order to gain access to mentorship, to resources, and to the capital that we need to grow the business. And I could either have 100% of nothing or a smaller percent of something really, really, really large.
Yeah, I appreciate you so much in breaking that down and again how that ego plays such a big part. And I think so many times people always are under you're forgetting, like, do you want 100% of a grape or half a percent or whatever the percent is of a watermelon, something that's a lot bigger. At the end of the day, if you're so tied to the mission, you can make an impact so much more people. You start to realize that it sounds like to me, at least this is what I'm hearing, a lot more of an investment in the progression of that mission, but also the progression of, I imagine, yourself, the business. There's so many things that are involved when you're able to kind of tap into that network, the community, the resource, all of those things start to happen. But we sometimes have to let go of the vision. Sometimes we're so attached to that ends up holding us back more than anything else.
Yeah. And that's why, as much as I can, I like to tell my story. Uh, our direction and where we went is not going to make sense for every business, but it's just important for people to know and have that information. They can decide for themselves.
Absolutely. That knowledge ends up being so much more powerful when it's let out. So I appreciate you in sharing that. And so now I want to ask you my absolute favorite question, which is the definition of what it means to be a CEO. And our goal is to have different quote unquote CEOs on this show. So Darren, what does being a CEO mean to you?
Being a CEO, unlike owner or self-employed or founder, means that you're in service. You're in service to your customers. You're in service to your employees. You're in service to your investors. And you've got to think not just about yourself and what you want. You've got to think about what's in the best interest of the business and how doing what's best for the business can serve those stakeholders.
Yeah, I love that servant leadership, and it's right in line with everything you said, and being like tied, to that mission. And I think when you have that attachment or the connection, or being like symbiotic in the sense like you can't one can't have survive without the other. You have that connection in that degree, you end up being of service to so many people, and you start impacting so many people in so many different ways, and it ends up being a really phenomenal thing. So, truly appreciate that definition, and of course, I appreciate your time even more. So what I wanted to do now is pass you the mic, so to speak, just to see if there's anything additional that you can let our readers and listeners know, and of course, how best people can get a hold of you, find out about all the awesome things you and your team are working on.
Sure. First things first, I want to say thank you, Gresh, to serving the CEO community. It can be lonely, and podcasts like this are helpful. I know I listen to them, and it just allows us to get our message out there and connect with other people. So I appreciate you for that, and really just having me here, just have this great conversation. Uh, in terms of anything additional that I want to share, if you are a travel planner, know a travel planner, or even you've got events, festivals, conferences where you're looking to partner with travel planners, reach out to me. You can find us, our website is squadtrip.com. You can find me on LinkedIn at Darrien Watson, Darrien. And you can reach out to me on email. It's Darrien at squadtrip.com.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you so much again, Darian. In order to make that easier, of course, we're going to have the links and information in the show notes as well too, so that everybody can follow up and connect and develop all those awesome relationships and connections as well too. But truly, thank you so much for the time. It makes it so much easier to be a host and be able to talk with phenomenal people doing phenomenal things. So thank you for doing all the hard work. I just have to ask all the questions, which is a lot easier. But I think one of the things that really stuck with me is like, again, we get so attached into how we're going to do the things that we're doing. And we have to sometimes evolve in the way that we're thinking about our business, our life, our organization in order to see true wins and true success. So I appreciate you so much again in sharing your story, my friend. And I hope you have a phenomenal rest of the day. And thank you so much for reminding us of how important it is to be attached to the why and what we're doing.
Thanks for having me.